Well, everyone, it actually happened. I went into yesterday's Nintendo Direct braced for the usual banal interchangeable garbage that plagues their every stream, only for this insane reveal to drop an atom bomb on my expectations and send this channel into a state of absolute chaos. Metroid Prime, one of my favorite games of all time and the second game I ever covered on this channel, was getting a remake. My eyeballs shot out of my skull like a cartoon character and I started drooling like a starved animal. This came out of absolutely nowhere, one of the best surprises a guy could ask for. This is technically a remaster, but given how incredible it looks, I'd feel more comfortable calling it a remake, since there's just no way they did this with GameCube or Wii renders. The only change of much note, besides the graphics, that would be relevant to this video is that a lot of the fodder mini-bosses have been downgraded to no longer have boss fight status. While I counted them as bosses in my All Bosses upload for old time's sake, I'm not going to be talking about guys like the Plated Beetle in this one. Heartbreaking that I no longer have to find an entire segment's worth of commentary about the incinerator drone I may never recover. As always, thank you to our wonderful patrons, Jack Allen, Aaron Trong, Tintabulations, and Not a Chart Shot. Consider joining them if you want to call the shots on our uploads in the future. Anyways, that's all the intro stuff. I've got some pretty heretical opinions from what I can gather, which should make things fun. Let's get into it. This thing looks incredible in the remaster. Unfortunately, that's the full scope of the changes made to the fight in the remaster. It is still, if you were wondering, a sitting duck with a health bar that you could whittle down by hitting it with spitballs for 5 minutes. If you stood in place and spammed the A button at her, you could even outdamage anything she throws at you with ease, which even a lobotomized chimpanzee could do. The only conceivable context in which this fight could be challenging is if you decided to spend some time posing for the security camera in front of the turrets outside the reactor, and even then they added a new save station right outside the room to heal you to full health. I tried using the motion controls to spice things up a bit, but no amount of seasoning can make a delicacy out of this saltine cracker of a boss. This truly is the boss fight in a game of all time. I was always under the impression that Flagra was a giant, evil, toxic bug plant, but in the remake, looking closely seems to reveal some sort of skeleton in its face. Whatever the hell it is, it's got a regen factor that would make Wolverine piss himself with jealousy. I'm less familiar with power scaling than Jack is, but there's gotta be a term for whatever level this is. Motherfucker gets incinerated into literal nothingness only to be back up and at him as soon as a little vitamin D goes his way. Fortunately for Samus, there are two glaring weaknesses in Flagra's survival strategy. First off, it seems that it can only do the whole revival things 4 times and then just decides to kick the bucket for good. Maybe it's like a cat and has extra lives, gotta add that to the descriptor name. The other issue facing the giant evil toxic skeleton cat bug plant is that similarly to the Parasite Queen, it can hardly damage you, no matter how badly you play. Yes, by all means, keep tickling me to death with leaves while I run around flipping your 5G satellite dishes and leaving bombs right next to your roots. Sure as hell beats the alternative, at least. Anyone who's played Arkham Asylum on hard mode could tell you all about how fun that is. Flagra is a significant step up from the Parasite Queen and at least requires some effort to kill, but is still too easy to create anything resembling tension or excitement. You guys must think I'm crazy! To a nutcase like me, Crazy Frog is just a regular frog, and the Joker's just a normal clown, all that jazz. Well, I came prepared to defend myself on this one. Hear me out, I beg of you. First off, the first phase is great. Using all your beams is fun, even if some of the special weapons are worthless dog shit. The Wave Buster and Flamethrower take like 100 missiles to do what the Ice Spreader or Super Missile do in 10. Anyways, Prime here has a far wider moveset than any other boss, and it's all good stuff, cinematic and intense, like a final boss ought to be. It even makes her use the Morph Ball to dodge some moves, which is cool. Personally, if it was just this phase, I'd have it as my number 2. However, the second phase turns everything on its head in the worst way imaginable. Do you want to know where I got these mental scars? I point you towards the Metroid Prime Core, a candidate for most dull final boss of all time. Boredom is the enemy of fun, as we all know, and boredom is often a symptom of having nothing to do. Well, there you have it. You have almost zero agency in this fight. Bosses that make you wait for a specific attack to damage them are always eye-roll worthy slogs, but this is the most egregious case I've ever come across in gaming history. Sometimes it takes like 9 gazillion years for him to summon the Phazon pools, leaving you with nothing to do in the meantime save for playing jump rope with the shockwaves. You guys may have noticed that in the All Bosses video that this fight is absurdly long compared to all the others. Well, this is why. I was trying to find ways to screw around and taunt, like spelling my name on the floor with plasma beam shots and bomb jumping in his face, but this is only amusing for so long. I would literally rather be stuck in a waiting queue at the DMV. At least there you can watch whatever generic cooking show or wildlife documentary they have running on the TV. Here you're stuck impotently firing shots at his forehead like a jackass until the AI decides to be charitable and grant you the opportunity to take away an eighth or so of his health bar. The only other move, aside from the shockwave and jawline thirst trap, is summoning Metroids, the most annoying fucking enemies in the game once the fission variants show up. I've spoken my piece. The first half carries it to a mid-range spot, but the god-awful final phase is leagues more miserable than anything else in the game. If the Parasite is a saltine cracker, then the Metroid Prime core is a maggot-ridden lump of roadkill, deserted on a highway and picked clean by buzzards. I've got a real 1-2 punch of controversy here. I like this boss a lot, but upon further reflection I realized that a lot of my opinion was unduly boosted by coolness alone. In fact, I'd argue that this is easily the worst of the 3 Ridley fights in the Prime games. Yes, Meta Ridley kicks ass, doubly so in the remaster with the amazingly detailed mechanical parts like his neck. Yes, watching him get lasered off a cliff and explode is one of the best moments in the game, but what about actually fighting him? While nowhere near as bad as the second phase of Metroid Prime, there is a good deal of what I call nothing time, where you're just stuck twiddling your thumbs doing nothing. If you clip out all the time you spend waiting for him to finish a double drive-by shooting of the impact crater, the fight is like half as long. I've beat this game well over 10 times, and I've reached a level of familiarity with this fight that I can sometimes hit him when he does this, but the game definitely does not intend for you to be able to make that 1 in a million snipe. The first phase as a whole is really easy, between all the health pickups you get from the destroyed pillars and the irregularity of Ridley actually attacking you directly. Things improve a lot when he gets low on health though, and his wings burn up, leaving him flightless as a penguin. Once he's up in your grill, things are as they should be. He's pretty aggressive, and on harder difficulties, the amount of time he spends cornering you will have you begging for a backwards dash move in no time. It's unarguably satisfying giving him a plasma-induced sore throat and then unloading on his chest, and I definitely agree that this phase of the fight is one of the best combat segments in the game. This is what duped so many people, my 16-year-old self included, into ranking him at the top. It's just that people forget how boring the first 75% of the fight is, which is why I have him bringing home the bronze as opposed to the gold this time. I still remember my first run of the game pretty well and recall thinking, wow, I finally finished blasting my way through the Space Pirate's secret lab. I wonder who I'll be up against. Ridley? Another commander? Yeah, no, shoot this fucking mound of boulders, dude. That's so awesome, I love this guy. In a game full of cyborg pirates and hostile alien fauna, you just have Thardus dead in the middle doing his own thing. While he may appear simple, he's actually a lot more interesting in a technical aspect than most other bosses. For one, he's always vulnerable. Therefore, you are always doing something. This is essential to a boss being engaging, and what puts him above fights with waiting games and other such issues for me. Even when he's doing his rolling attack, you can still hit him if you're a good shot, which is a fun little detail I don't take for granted. In most games, you'd just be forced to run around for 30 seconds while he drags his iframe protected nuts all over the room. Not only is it fun, but the fight looks amazing, especially in the remaster. Lights and literal thunder abound. Thardus would have been funny enough just by virtue of being a random rock monster, even if the fight was bang average, but the fact that it's actually really good sells the deal for me. Also, that one rock falling on Samus after you kill him is hilarious to me. It's literally the only comedic moment in the game, save for some of the pirate logs about shitting themselves over Samus being on Talon 4. That just makes it stand out like whatever the good equivalent of a sore thumb is. Thardus is absolutely slept on, and I am taking up arms to elevate his standing in the public eye. Thardus rules. I will die on this hill. The way I see it, this is the pinnacle of Metroid Prime. All of the various crimes of the other bosses are completely absent and pure adrenaline remains. He looks like a total badass and is able to walk the walk every step of the way. You have an incredible variety of options as to how you handle him, and you can get pretty strategic if you feel like it. Power bombs obliterate his armor instantly, and if you think to bomb jump before laying one, you can even catch his shoulder pads in the blast. As well as that, you can take attacks away from him by blasting his plasma bomb launchers into scrap, leaving him much more melee focused and easy to outrange. I can see someone arguing that his shield move is an example of the much maligned nothing time I keep going on about, which is fair. My response is that it isn't exactly nothing time, because later in the fight when he's summoning beam troopers in groups of 3 to constantly harass you, you really need that downtime. If he was sending shit at you while you were trying to make those guys piss off, it would be brutal. So while in the very beginning of the fight it sort of is, it's a necessary sacrifice for the sake of not making the second half of the fight a lawless nightmare. Plus, he still sort of attacks you while shielding just by power walking into you. He's fast for his size, and if you aren't careful, he'll be upon you faster than the hypothetical Catholic priest Instagram seems convinced molested me as a child. The phase-on pools make it important to be aware of your positioning, something I've admittedly never become great at to this day. There's a lot of other stuff I dig about this fight too. The X-ray visor vision aspect is awesome. He looks really cool as this teleporting, archvile posing, wiry mass of bone. He also has these really deep laughs that serve two purposes. One, they tell you where he is roughly, orienting you in the right way if you're busy fending off wave troopers with the combat visor. Secondly, and more importantly, it's badass and adds a lot of intimidating atmosphere to the fight. The setting is already cool, the phase-on ridden massive chamber is dope. All in all, the Omega Pirate fight is a chaotic, badass madhouse, without a single dull moment plaguing it once it gets going. I rest my case. This guy rules. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. It seems to be somewhat likely we'll see remasters of Prime 2 and 3 sometime in the near future, and if we do, rest assured that I'll jump on them just like I did this one. Stay tuned for all our future uploads, and as always, make sure to like and subscribe. That's all for now. Deuces.